Basing miniatures is such a fun part of the miniature hobby that once you've been gaming for a few years, you are bound to start picking up the odd basing material here and there. Whether that's basics such as sand or static grass, or whether you start branching into more interesting products such as foliage and pigments. But even for veteran hobbyists such as myself, there is much appeal to a product that provides a complete range of interesting materials to use when basing all in one place. Enter stage left, the new basing sets from Green Stuff World. These sets promise a full range of products to assist the creation of thematic bases in 4 environments, these being forest, swamp, desert and arctic. To be honest, I've been pretty excited about this product since it was announced, as it seems like a great way to pick up a range of individual Green Stuff World basing products in one go that are bound to work together well. As with all of our unboxing videos, this isn't just about what's inside, which is, after all, written on the box. As we unlock the forest basing set box together, I'll give my thoughts on the usefulness of the components and attempt to answer whether this set represents good value for your limited hobby budget, and whether it really is a good place for a beginner to start experimenting with basing designs, or a product better suited to the seasoned hobbyist. Just a reminder that Nameless Seraphim Gaming will always tell you if we are or have been sponsored by a company whose products we are looking at in detail in a video like this. Green Stuff World has not sponsored this content, we have purchased the basing set ourselves, and so I will give you our honest, unfiltered opinions about the product. Let's get into it. The contents of the box are sufficiently packaged with the main basing components separated from the tutorial sheet. The tutorial consists of quite brief instructions for 2 possible basing ideas, and I'll come back to this a bit later in the video. Our first basing components are these 2 30ml containers of natural earth pigments in nature green and wild moss. Pigments are often used to add a dusty texture and colour variation to bases, but in this case the intention seems to be for them to be used to add a green tint to areas of your forest base, as they are quite vivid green colours, and there is no pigment fixer of any kind included in the box. I'm used to combining pigments with a medium or otherwise fixing them to the base, but the tutorial implies that these can just be mixed with a little water and used as normal paints. If I'm honest, I'm a little sceptical as to the long-term durability of that approach, but I guess we'll give them a whirl and see. Pigments have a habit of getting everywhere, so it's nice to see these have their own little baggie to keep them away from the other components. Next is the ubiquitous but always useful bark pieces bag. These pieces can be used to represent fallen wood in your forest, or can be painted over to look like flat stones, so are fairly adaptable. As you can see on my hand, the pieces are reasonably small, enough to be noticeable on the base, but not enough to construct large additional layers the way you might with sheets of corkboard. These are a great addition to any basing bits collection, and a simple way to add a little flavour to otherwise bare bases. There are 3 sizes of tuft to allow you to add clumps of grass to the base. In fact, grass is one thing you're definitely not short of in this box. These are the 6mm and 12mm sizes, probably your more normal size for basing. They are self-adhesive, but I usually add a drop of glue under tufts when I apply them anyway for additional security, particularly if I'm adding them to an already largely finished base. And then, holy cow, look at the size of these XXL tufts. They're honestly more like bushes than grass at this point. Great if your basing needs to compensate for something, I guess. Here you can see them next to the normal tufts for comparison. These obviously aren't going to be the best for miniatures on smaller bases, but I must be honest, I'm quite looking forward to trying them out on a larger project at some point in the future. Next we have a bag of loose static grass in 4 to 6mm size in GSW's spring grass shade. Static grass has a tendency to be messy, and I haven't really used it since tufts became widely available, but it is obviously versatile. I should note for beginner hobbyists that no glue is included with which to fix the static grass, so you're going to need to source something yourself before you can use this component. It doesn't seem like a particularly large bag. Normally that's the advantage of static grass over tufts, so you get a larger quantity more cheaply. But used sparingly on your bases, this quantity would probably last you quite a while, or might be enough for a couple of reasonably sized dioramas depending on your design. The clump foliage is a new product to me, but I can immediately see its potential as a way of adding tree detritus around a base. The consistency is fine enough not to look out of scale with 28mm miniatures, but large enough to convey what it is. Like everything in this box, the colour is quite vivid, and I wonder whether it will take washes to blend it in with a darker base, or whether this will cause the colour to run. This is definitely among those products in the box I'm most excited to try out. In many ways, the next two products are very similar to the clump foliage. Certainly I can see them being used in similar ways. The spring leaf litter is very similar to a product I've used before. In theory, this creates some nice leaf shapes on your base, but I find that in practice the leaves are a little too big for the scale of the miniature that I tend to work with. I also found previously that the green colour runs when mixed with water-based glue or washes, so it'll be interesting to try out the Green Stuff World product to see whether it has the same issue. The light green micro leaves are another interesting product, very bright and almost resembling lawn cuttings. I haven't tried this product before, but I will say that it immediately shed particles over my cutting mat and left pigment on my fingers, so I'm pretty confident this product will get everywhere if you let it, and may have the colour running issues I mentioned earlier. I'm keen to experiment with it, however, and I wonder whether it would be a good way to create vivid moss coverage on stumps and logs, for example. Two more quite interesting products next, the paper leaves in both burdock and fern shapes. These are essentially laser-cut leaves on thick paper stock that can be added to give a dramatic leaf shape to your bases. The burn from the laser cutter does show up on the leaves in places, but the intention is that you paint these anyway. Worst news for the beginner is that the recommended approach is to do so via airbrush, although these can be carefully painted by brush, and I must say I have no intention of breaking out the airbrush for one leaf. Perhaps more of an expert product than a beginner, these will immediately enhance your base design if used appropriately. They are also reasonably expensive to buy individually compared to some of the other components, so if this is a product you actively want to use, then this only adds to the overall value of the set. Lastly, surely enough to extract an "aww" from even the most hardcore Warhammer 40k player, look at the little critters! A lovely resin set of mushrooms, flowers and various types of woodland creatures such as rabbits, squirrels and even a hedgehog, which you can clip off and add to the base like you would a regular miniature. Okay, you are going to have to paint them, but on the right miniature they are sure to add some flavour, and they are detailed enough for you to be able to get a decent result painting them. My only criticism is that the inclusion of resin tree roots or branches, or even a tree stump or two, would probably have been much more useful than flowers and squirrels, which while undeniably cute are not going to fit every forest base. You won't have room for them on every forest base for a start. Although at least you have the option to paint them in a more grimdark way if you want to. This probably sums up the components as a whole. Everything is very vivid and bright and probably leans towards the more traditional Wood Elf style forest base more than it does darker cursed forests. You could undoubtedly adapt the components for other styles of forest, but you're going to have to do more work to get there. So does this box represent value for money compared to picking up these items individually? On this question I'm pleased to be able to give a resounding yes. I compared the cost of buying each of the 13 components, not including the tutorial booklet, individually from GSW's website, and this came to a total of £54.11 at that point in time compared to £35.82 for the basing set, giving a saving of about a third compared to the individual component cost. Many of the items were on sale on the website at the time I compared the prices, however the basing set was also included in the sale at a similar discount, so this evens out. Clearly you might save more money still by obtaining these items from your local hobby store. For example, we were lucky enough to find a store offering a discount and free postage on the set, but I used Green Stuff World's website just to get a representative number. There are a few assumptions in my calculations. I notably couldn't find the exact same Plants and Critters set on GSW's website, so I used the pricing applicable to other similar resin sets for comparison. Also, there is no information about volume included on the static grass, tree bark or foliage baggies, which makes it difficult to be sure whether the quantity offered in the basing set is the same. I have assumed that these products are provided in identical quantities for the purpose of the comparison, but I'm conscious that this may not be the case. Even bearing these points in mind, I didn't feel the set represented poor value. Clearly how much it is worth to you will depend on whether you feel you would use most of what is included in the box, but it helps that the boxes have been developed around terrain themes that gamers will be used to considering when basing their miniatures. The components are also provided in enough quantity for you to be able to complete multiple bases and then decide what components to seek out again. If judged purely as a collection of components to supplement your basing materials, Green Stuff World have pulled some great options from their enviable range of products into a good value and thematic collection. However, these sets have been marketed very much as a complete basing kit, containing everything you need to produce spectacular bases such as those featured in the tutorial. And to be honest, I think this is what most beginners and many hobbyists would expect such a set to be. Instead, beginners will find they immediately lack key components to be able to use the products included. Not just more reasonable emissions such as glue and paint, but also products such as sand that are fundamental staples for this type of base creation. The only wood simulator in this forest set is bark. There are no roots or tree stumps, and the box includes products such as pigments, already a mystery to many hobbyists, without associated products like fixer that I would argue are pretty essential to use the set effectively. In this respect, Green Stuff World's positioning of this product for beginners and hobbyists alike starts to fail and fail hard. It may seem like a petty complaint when all the components are clearly listed on the box, and I can almost forgive marketing hyperbole like "this set includes everything you need to get started," knowing that components such as sand and glue are easily acquired. However, I do think this takes a more egregious turn with the basing tutorials included. If I tell you that the 5-step instructions for putting this first base together start with the instruction, "we start from a miniature base painted with natural pigments as a starting point," and that the central tree stump, cork pieces and sand featured on this initial step are not included in the box, you'll probably start to understand my frustration. How am I meant to assess the quality of the instructions provided when I can't even begin to follow them in this video without supplementing the box with other products? It's worth mentioning that some of the products mentioned, such as tuft glue and sand, are available in some of the other basing sets, Arctic and Desert respectively. But even if I felt comfortable advocating the purchase of all 4 sets, to the tune of around £150 to a beginner, some of the larger resin pieces featured in the tutorials are not included in any of the boxes. Simply put, you cannot build the bases featured in these tutorials by purely using the box contents. And this is the primary reason this video itself is an unboxing rather than a tutorial or an attempt to follow the instructions provided. The bad taste left by this little bit of marketing trickery is further soured by the poor quality of the tutorials themselves, which give only the most cursory indications of how major steps are undertaken. If you are a true beginner to the hobby, there is simply not going to be enough detail to give you a sense of the techniques or even the order in which key steps are undertaken. Attempting to boil such a sophisticated base creation into 5 images really defeats most of the advantage of having these instructions in the box, which is a real shame as I think beginners and experts alike could get a much more valuable impression of GSW's products by replicating these absolutely beautiful base ideas. It's not at all what I was expecting from GSW, who do such a good job demonstrating their products on their own YouTube channel. In short, this set is simply not perfect for beginners, as GSW's website proudly proclaims, and even experienced hobbyists that are not familiar with the products contained might struggle to get the best out of this box purely with the contents provided. I'm sure there are many hobbyists out there for which this will represent an ideal basing kit, a way to pick up a big batch of themed products to start or reinforce their basing collection, and to provide some inspiration for truly thematic bases. Certainly it's worth picking up if you want most of the products and fancy trying out a few more. For my part, I still look forward to trying out some of these products, and we may even feature my attempts on the channel in future. However, this basing set is certainly not the one-stop shop I was hoping it would be, and this makes it very difficult to recommend for beginners. If you're just starting out, I just don't think there's enough substance to the tutorials, nor does this represent a complete enough set to justify what is probably a fairly intimidating outlay for the newcomer. You'd arguably be better off acquiring a few products at a time from a few different manufacturers and slowly deciding what works for you. Let us know in the comments if you've tried this product yourself, particularly if you are a beginner hobbyist who has found this set useful, or if you found this unboxing and perspective helpful, or if there's a similar product you'd like us to cover in a future video. Like and subscribe to ensure every one of our eclectic hobby videos reaches you. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, don't forget to work hard, play better, and take care out there.